people don't buy my work because of just because of the fact that I'm good. They buy because they like me. And probably the last thing is don't burn out. The last thing you want as a creative person is to burn out. And the only way you can burn out is if you are consistently wearing a mask.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Teely,
And I'm Dami.
and this is the Creative Africa podcast.
This podcast features flourishing African creatives who share a vision to keep artists and creators across the continent informed about how to tap into the lucrative potential of their work.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope the podcast leaves you feeling informed, refreshed, and ready to make the most out of your creative talent. Let's get right into it.
Welcome to another episode of the Lucrative Africa podcast. I'm Dami, and I'm going to be your host yet again for today's episode. And with me here today, I'll be having a conversation with Mike Lawson. Mike Lawson is a brand strategist who focuses on helping businesses supercharge their brand, and he's also the co-founder of Brainstorm Africa, a brand strategy design consultancy helping businesses grow, launch products, and connect with their communities. But that's a very brief introduction. I'm sure Mike will have a lot more to say because, I've seen his social media pages and there's more. There's probably more to that. So, Mike, I'm handing over the virtual mic to you. Handing over the virtual mic to Mike. Wow, okay, that I didn't expect that to rhyme. But yeah, can you tell us a bit about yourself and the work you do?
Yeah, first of all, thank you. Thank you for the great introduction. Like sometimes I forget how I don't know, it can be weird sometimes hearing people describe you because to me I'm just working, you know. But then yeah, it's so nice to be here. It's an honor to be on this pod and I love your pod. I love everything you do. I I am like so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Mike Lawson. I work in the branding space. As he said, nothing he said was wrong. Everything was actually too correct. I don't know. He did his research before the call. So and I write content online teaching people, especially people where I'm from, which is Ghana and Africa, about how to scale their operations like as creative entrepreneurs to be able to service clients outside of Africa and beyond, you know, and teaching them everything they need to know so they don't make the same mistakes I made. And so, because I made a lot of mistakes. So that's kind of like the main thing I do on social media. And that has helped me a lot. I have made so many friends all over the world. I have been featured on so many podcasts, so many blogs, and I'm super grateful for the opportunity. But it always comes back to the main thing, which is teaching people, you know, the things they need to know so that they can compete in the global creator ecosystem. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I'm sure you have a lot more questions to ask, so I'm all yours.
Definitely, I have a whole lot more. But yeah, thank you for that introduction, and we are definitely going to dive into those mistakes that you say that you've made because we're going to have to
Mm-hmm.
learn a lot of lessons from that. But yeah, thank you for that. So introductions apart, what's your story? Where did it all begin? What got you into the whole branding space, and also
Okay.
co-founding Brainstorm Africa? So give us a little insight into that.
Okay. So I was on a plan. So I did like that's the thing. I'm very well educated. I've done the school, I've done undergrad, I've done postgrad. I was on the track to becoming the typical finance bro. I was good with math. I was like good with like I'm good with like analytical, like I think very analytically. And so that was my path. But on the side, what I was doing on the side was I was, you know, fidgeting with Photoshop and Illustrator. I used to, in my younger days, I used to make these really cool illustrations, whether that was a logo, whether that was, you know, blending colors, making some art. I always had this creative side, but then, you know, I was too shy to bring it up. You know how African homes can be. They don't want you
I
to
understand.
stray from the path of the narrow. So and it took me a long time to come to terms with the fact that this is what I wanted to do. But I was scared, like as at the time, not many people were making it as creative entrepreneurs. Nobody was making serious money. Like people were doing on the side, but they weren't making serious money. Till I met my co-founder, Nanayao. And he is currently his personal brand is probably even bigger than mine right now. But at the time, I knew him from high school, but then it was right when we were like in undergrad. Like so as I was working through my undergrad and my degree, he was the outgoing type. I was the shy guy. I was the quiet guy. I didn't like talking to people. I'm like that type, still very reserved. Um and he was the guy who knew people. He was the connector. He knew people, different people wanting to do stuff. And he knew me. So he reached out to me and was like, Mike, he has a couple people who need, certain designs, certain projects. They needed certain things done. And he would send them my way. I would work on it and I'd get a cut. Like I'll get a cut of the money. So that was kind of like the on paper agreement, right? So we did a couple projects together. They were all really good projects. They were successful, even though they were not big projects. To be fair, at the time it was very small money to me. But at the time, it was so crazy to me that someone was willing to pay me that amount of money for design, like for something I actually enjoyed doing, messaging and crafting these unique brands. And then so it sped up from there. And then right after uni postgrad, like I had to decide whether I would go and get the typical 9 to 5 or I would, do this thing with him, set up the company and just go for it. And it was scary. It was tough. I had difficult conversations with everybody. Parents, they've spent so much money on you to go to school and do it, like to become the ideal career, like to get on the ideal career path. And now you're going with creativity, where it's like it's not certain, nothing is certain, it's entrepreneurship. You could burn money, you could be poor, and there's so many things that could have gone wrong. But then yeah, we went for it, and I think the rest is history. And now we're still in the pocket. We're still like now we have a team. We have about 5 people on payroll. We work with so many contractors all over the world. Um, and it's funny because I don't even do as much design anymore, except for like my own content. And because I know I'm not the best, I always look to hire the best who can do it for the budget that we have. And so yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I don't know if that's good enough, or if you have any more questions about that origin story.
That's very good. I mean, and the fact that I can also, well, to some extent, I can also relate to the, having to have those conversations about,
Hmm.
the path you're trying to go, especially when it's not the conventional path. I think that's a lot of things. That's
Exactly.
a lot of African creatives specifically go through that. And just to piggyback on that, you said you had some conversations and eventually you decided to go the path you wanted to go. So
Hmm.
the fact that this is something that a lot of African creatives go through, and young people, what kind of conversations did you have, and did they end up
Fair.
convincing? Yeah, it would be good to have some insight into that. Maybe something people can take away to go talk to. Not that
Yeah.
we are giving people advice to go and fight your parents or anything, but at least, yeah, there might be some nuggets there,
Oh
some bullet
yeah.
points that we could take away from that.
I think ultimately the first battle I had to fight was the one with myself. I had to understand that it was possible to build this life for myself, with creativity, with creative entrepreneurship. First I thought, like I knew it was something that I liked, and then someone paid me money for it. So that was like the first time I had got money from it. But then even up till like undergrad, postgrad, I always thought that it could be something I'll just get on the side. I didn't think it could be a full time thing that I wake up and that's what I live, breathe, and eat. So I had to accept that, like if you are going to try and argue with anybody and you yourself are not convinced that this is what you want for yourself, it will never work, And so when got that conviction, I'm like super blessed that I have a mom that really understands me. Like they supported me like right from the get go. Not like they were giving me unnecessary like money. They didn't give me money, but then they just like they like the fact that they know I'm good. That's the thing. They know I'm good. I've done the degrees for them. So whatever they need, if worst case scenario, I can get a very good job and go back to working for somebody, right? But then I did what I had to do for them, and I told them that no, this is what I want for myself. Even if I'm wrong, I want to do it and be wrong. So I think it starts off with you up here because most of the time, especially from African creatives, like we don't see the future, especially with how bad things are. Like I can speak for my country, like Ghana is in a really terrible spot right now. And people can't see how they can make this work for themselves. So many creatives I know who are even veterans before I entered the space are still in Ghana, and I've gone back to get 9 to 5s because the economy is just not working out for them right now. And so you have to get to that point where you understand that it's possible. Like it's not as simple as it is. Like you have to see evidence. You have to meet people that are living this and let that be your motivation to be like, yes, this I can get this for myself if I work hard enough. And from there, you can have a conversation with anyone. And to be honest, when you are convicted and you have a supportive family, they will support you. If you don't have a supportive family, that's a new conversation. I don't have experience on that. I don't know how you would go about that. I don't know what your story is like. I don't know if your people agreed right out the bat, but then I don't have experience for people who have stubborn parents, so I can't really help you there. But then I think if you were really convicted about this one thing and showed up for them, like if they want you to go to school, do the school. Do it on the side. When you have everything that they've asked for, be like, yeah, I want to go off and do this thing for 2 3 years. I want to do it for 5 years and see what happens. And if it fails, you come back and be like, yeah, it wasn't for me. And then you change your path. And it's okay. It's okay to be wrong. But yeah.
I I think in terms of I probably have quite similar experiences with you in terms of
Hmm.
like parents. I would also happily say that I have supportive parents who also were,
Yeah.
even though they would make sure that okay, oh, you are doing this thing, you should still face your book, but you are allowed to explore other things. You should
Explore.
still go to
Exactly.
school, and I think that there is some level of I understand where they come from when they say you should still focus on school because of course they still want that their children to have like some security and that they are sure about, even though that security today is questionable because it's it doesn't always mean that because you went to school you are going to become what people
Exactly.
probably have become back then. But I'll still understand their point of view, so I did have a similar experience, but just as you said, for stubborn parents, I have no insight into that. So
Yeah. And I think it's like you've said something that is like it's something I've been telling people. There's no security. The thing that's happened on the internet in the past even 10 years is people have seen that there's new ways that people are amassing wealth. And a lot of it has to do with the creator economy. So people are leaving their jobs. I mean, like in the past, I mean, now it's in a tight spot, but then in the past 2 3 years, especially since COVID, people left their jobs to run YouTube channels that were paying them multiple six figures a month, right from Africa. It's not even like someone based in California, someone based in Paris. Like these are people based in Ghana, Nigeria. Like people run good operations. They produce content at mass. Now making way more money than they would have ever made if they went the proper route of like becoming an accountant, becoming a doctor, working at home. Just because it was respectable back then, things have changed. Now there's the only security I tell people, the only security people have now is your personal brand and your digital presence online. People don't see it right now because it's still very early in the process, but then a lot is going to happen in the next 5 10 years that if you don't have a presence online, if you don't have something you're doing for yourself, and there's nothing you are known for aside your desk job, you would be so irrelevant. Nobody would spend money with you. Nobody would invest in anything you say just because you are a ghost online. And so it's something that we can probably talk about later. But then, as you said, like there's no security. Those times there was, But then now it's like you can have you can have a degree, you can have a second degree and still be unemployed. 15 years ago, if you had a degree, you should have a job. No one would not hire you. But now people are sitting at home with so many degrees. And so where's the security? Where's the progress? There's like so many ways of thinking have been shattered by the internet, but people just don't want to accept that yet. But yeah, there's a lot more security in investing in yourself.
Definitely. And I think, as you said, as you mentioned, the 2020 was a very, very good example of that. I think that was when there was a peak increase in how much people just moved on to start things online. And as you
Exactly.
said, I think the transition between you know, that whole having more security back then versus now, it was like the advent of the internet and how many things you can do on it. And it's like,
Exactly.
you can make, well, maybe I don't know if it's the same amount of money, but I mean it's at least similar amount of money or even more just making videos
Yeah.
compared to, as well as someone who is like a doctor or someone who is going to the office every day, and then you are you are in your room, you are recording, you've turned your room into a studio and
A
nobody knows that it's
studio.
your room, but at least but at least you are making videos, people are watching it, you're getting views, and YouTube is paying you, or whatever other
And it's
platforms.
paying you.
You know, people,
Exactly.
like, you think that people who are streamers, I mean, in most African community, I think gaming is usually viewed with bad eyes. But
Mm-hmm.
people stream games, just them playing games, and people come to watch it, and they make money from that. Like, there's so many things that you never have dreamt of that would make you money many
Exactly.
years ago, and it's
And
like
it's
people
so
just need to.
crazy.
Mhm.
It's so crazy. Like, fun fact, I actually am a streamer. I don't stream. I haven't streamed in like 7 months. But then I used to stream. I play Football Manager. And once in a while I stream. And there was this time on stream, someone literally bought me coffee. I did something. It was like a $5 something. And I was like, yo, that's so crazy. One, I didn't even have 10 followers. Someone in the audience like was so happy about the fact that we qualified for Champions League or something like that and decided to buy me coffee for the day. It's crazy. Like, people are giving things like just from writing content. People tell me, Mike, you've changed my life. Like, this one thing you showed me has changed, and then they send me stuff. No one would have done that if I was in a desk job. Like, it's
True.
crazy. Like, things have changed. Things have changed. The streamers are making so much money. Kai Senat and all these people, they are making so much money. They have all their attention on the internet. The big brands, Nike, Adidas, are all sending all their money to them because they have all their attention. So I think it's high time a lot of Africans like shed that skin. It's like, yes, you can have the job for security, but then think of like your future, your wealth building. Where do you want to be? Do you think your next job is going to do that for you? Because the opportunity is vast and it's still early. You can still grab onto it.
And even around the whole personal branding thing, I remember seeing somebody make a post about something like this on LinkedIn, where they're talking about how you have people who are experts, like they know their stuff, they've been working at so and so company for 20 years and they are good
Mm-hmm.
at what they are doing, but once there is, I don't know, there's a layoff or something, or they've lost their jobs, they just realize how much the only people who knew you were the people who were working at your office
Work
and your
with you.
family
Yeah.
for those 20 years. And it's not that you don't have the skill or you don't have the experience, but nobody knows you have the experience. And sometimes it's like you now have to start building your personal brand at that point, which
Mm-hmm.
again, it's never too late to do that. But if you had started way
Exactly.
earlier while we were working at the company, then you'll probably be further down. And if situations like that happen, it'll be easier for you to get other opportunities
To
because
get
they're
exactly.
probably already waiting like for you even before you had to switch jobs or something. So
It's true.
yeah,
It's true.
definitely
It's true.
I resonate with that point. And speaking of branding now, you being the branding expert, so what would you define branding as? Like branding as a whole, and then also just personal branding. And do you think there are any misconceptions around it that you would want to clarify for us?
That's a very good question. I think, like you said, branding. So branding is, according to Martin Numa, it's a person's gut feeling about a product, person, or organization. So when you're not in the room, when whether you're in the room or not, when someone sees you, hears your name, what do they feel about you? Like, what do they think you represent? What do they think you stand for? Who do they think you are? And branding, like what we do as organizations and as service providers like yourself, is to make customers feel the exact same things the company wants them to feel. So if I'm building a product, I want it to be a lifestyle product. I want people who use my product to feel more confident in their own skin. Maybe I'm going for people who are slightly overweight. I want overweight people to be more confident in their skin. The branding or branding experts or whoever is making up the brand is supposed to make sure that like that vision is translated through design, color, writing, messaging, content, like all that, so that the consumer understands that, oh, this is it. And when you have bad branding, it's like there's a mismatch. So you think you are standing for these overweight people, but then the market just thinks you are just another fitness brand. That's a bad brand. Like it means your branding is not working. And your second question was about personal branding and the main difference. There are similarities. So in running personal brands and building personal brands and building company brands, there are similarities, but they are very different. Because business branding, you can hide, like you can build a brand, like it's outside of a human being. So you can build that brand and have it stand on its own. But the thing with personal branding, and it's something I'm learning a lot recently, is it has to do more with how do I say this? It has to do more with you shedding off the protective film that we've put over ourselves. So people have this term that they call building a personal brand. Like it makes sense on paper, but then that's not actually what's happening, because we already know who we are. You know who you are, you know what you stand for, you know who you are when nobody's looking, you know what you do when the cameras are off and you're in the room, like how you talk, how you dress, how you act. But then when you're put in front of the camera, then all of a sudden you have to wear this mask and become some guy who's not you, by the way. And that's a bad personal brand because there's a mismatch there. But then the best personal brands, like I mentioned Kai Sinat and all these people, like the reason why people love them so much is because who they are in person and who they are in real life, there's almost no difference. Who they are online and um who they are online and who they are in real life, there's almost no difference. And so you can feel like the authenticity, like you can feel like they are being real. And people connect with that. They have the biggest following. Unless you're a celebrity that you are known for your work, if you're a regular person like me, people should like me for me. And so showing up as me takes work. It's scary. You have to do a lot of work to like get comfortable with yourself, get comfortable with your skin, your face, your accent. It's a lot more work internally to build a personal brand or to grow your personal brand, because now you have to share parts of yourself with the internet, and people might not like that. People might see it and be like, oh, this guy he's a whack. People tell me all the time, like I tell people this funny story. When I started doing content, people used to bash me for always wearing hoodies. And like, I mean, now I've shaved a bit, but then I was like, sometimes in the thick of projects, I don't get time to like shave. I get a bit scruffy sometimes, and people will be like, who's this guy talking about business? You should wear a suit. Suits, bro, like for content. Like, you're telling me to wear suits. Like, who am I? I don't wear suits on a normal day. I've worn suits like
just to make
once,
it real.
just to make, bro. And I think that's like the issue. That's the issue. It's like people want to build this image, perfect image they have of themselves online. But then, no, like the best personal brands are the ones that feel real. They feel like they sound like how I sound. Like, this is how I'll talk to anyone. If it was my friend, this is how I'll talk. If it was my mom, this is how I'll talk. And so it takes a lot of work to actually build a true personal brand. And most people are not willing to do it, and that's okay. I don't know if you have any follow ups to that.
Yeah, I do. As you were talking about it, I was just thinking about my own experiences with quote unquote building, or like maybe say
Mm-hmm.
curating a brand. I think
Curating,
that's
yeah.
like the one where I recall when I started trying to also build my brand, it was just about me looking at some of the people who I really liked and then trying to, I don't know, adjust myself to the, post the kind of contents they were posting,
They're
talk the same
posting
way they were
it.
talking, not necessarily like injecting my own values or my own beliefs into that, because I thought the people in this space actually want to hear my own beliefs or my own values, what I think about this thing, even though that's not like popular opinion. And it was later
Exactly.
on I was like, if you want to be consistent, like with the branding, consistency will always be easier when you are being honest, because you don't have to be putting up a false image everywhere
Exactly.
you show up. You don't have to be thinking. But when it's like the person you are on LinkedIn is not who you are in real life. So when you go out to network or everything, you have to start thinking, what would I normally say on a post
What
on
would I
LinkedIn? I have
say?
to be like that, when I'm around people. And then there'll also be people somewhere who are closer to you. I just imagine when you come online, you post something on LinkedIn, and then your close friends and all of that, they view that and like, this cannot be coming from this
This
guy.
has
We
not
know
be
we
you.
know him. We know him. He doesn't talk like that. So he doesn't
He
say
doesn't
things
talk
like
like
that.
that.
So, and I think that's
It's
like a
true.
very good test of whether you're being authentic with your personal branding. And honestly, I would not say I've been the best with that. I'm really trying to
Same.
build that work. I remember sometimes I would want to like make a post about like something I learned from some animation or some cartoon that I watched, but then I'm thinking, this is a space for adults. Should I be talking about cartoon? Even though I did learn something valuable from this that I
Uh-huh.
think would like apply to that context, but then I don't do that. And I just realized
Yeah.
I'm not really being as authentic as I'm just curating a brand and putting
A
on
brand,
a
exactly.
facade. So yeah,
It's true.
I
And
relate.
I have been in that spot. And I think it happens to, it's actually very easy for it to happen to creative people because what we are doing with our work is already a fraction. It's like a part of the thing about creativity, like creative work is a part of your heart, your brain, your thinking, your creativity, your intellect. Everything goes into design of whatever you're making, whether that's art, whether that's music, whether that's a movie that you're making. It's part of you. And so it already feels like you've given a lot to the world when you make something. So when it's time to now say, oh, you have to do your personal brand, it's like, okay, like I'll do the work, but then this part, like I'll keep everything else under wraps. So it's easier for creative people to be the people who would actually be hiding. And I was like that for a long time. Like myself, like you mentioned, the LinkedIn thing, bro. I used to be I and the thing is I hate LinkedIn for this very reason. I hate the fact that it feels fake. It feels people are putting up this image. No one wants to even creating content. People don't want to create content. People don't want to write what they're actually learning. No one wants to write in their own voice. Like you're talking about, I'm glad to announce that I have just completed my internship at this, that. It was a very illuminating experience. You don't talk like that, bro. Like you don't, that's not how you talk. And when people
True.
read it, they know you don't talk like that. So everybody's just enjoying this big balloon of fakeness. And it's just very weird. And so I decided, like I think it was early last year, I just decided that my content is never going to be that kind. I'm not going to force my writing to sound a certain way. I'm going to write raw. I'm going to tweet raw. These days I'm more active on threads anyway. So I'm going to like thread raw. I'm talking about a wild variety of things. I'm talking about movies I've watched. I'm talking about games. I'm talking about pop culture. I'm talking about anything and everything because that's all me, and people are connecting. And that's the weird part. It's like when you start sharing and being more real, sharing on stories, like my IG stories, when I just post random things, those things go viral. There was a time I had this really long call with my mom. I hadn't seen her in like a couple of years. I had this really long call with my mom, and she was talking about how she just finished watching Better Call Saul. It's one of my favorite shows of all time. It's a spin-off from Breaking Bad. And it was so interesting to me. I took a screenshot of like the call. It was a FaceTime. It was a call, and I posted on my story. I was like, "Guess like, could you guys imagine?" She said she likes like Better Call Saul. Like, no wonder she's my mom. That story was my most viewed story ever. Like, people were just reaching out to me and like connecting and being like, "Wow, like your mom actually likes Better Call Saul." Like, it generates this kind of like people tend to trust you more when you are real, and nobody knows and nobody is perfect. People have problems. So then why do
And
we try to mask it? Yeah, that's the problem. It's like we've all masked it and we are walking around making content. It's all masked. And one person will start getting good success with content. And we think it's because, oh, they is the real format, or oh, it's because they are doing quick clips. But when you pay attention, you realize that it's just like they took off the mask. They just started being more real. They started like writing more from the heart. They started speaking more from the heart, and people started to gravitate towards them. And then the algorithm picks it up, and then boom, it's going. So that's kind of the. But it's scary. I think I have to mention the fact that it's scary. It's not as simple as it sounds, um,
it
because
really
and it's
is. It
actually
really is.
and it's something I spoke about. I think I actually made a post about it a couple weeks back. That um, especially people from my background, Africans, like we have this kind of um upbringing where you are not supposed to talk back at elders. You're not supposed to be loud. You're not supposed to be asked too many questions. You're not supposed to so many things that have kind of like as we are bringing after we are growing up, it has suppressed thinking, it has suppressed talking. People don't even want to tweet, people don't want to say their opinions because they are afraid that they are wrong. But the thing is, you will be wrong most of the time. I'm wrong sometimes I make a post and it's like, oh, I didn't see it from this angle. Someone will make a comment and be like, oh, I didn't see it from there, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And it's okay, I'm human, I'm not like a boss, I'm not like a mastermind, or no, I make mistakes. And I think a lot of people from our side, like if you have that kind of background where when you were growing up, they didn't want you to be talking too much, they didn't want you to be asking too many questions. um it kind of like forces you to be quiet, to be timid, to be afraid to be yourself, and you have to do the work. Like I did the work to be able to become comfortable speaking. Where it's like now, if my mom sees my content, I don't care. If it obviously it will be a big cringe, like it'll be like, oh, why are you watching my things? But then at the end of the day, it's like, well, that's it. Like that's me. You can't fight me. If you I've grown, I'm an adult now. And so I think I have to recognize that yeah, it's very difficult, like for most people to get over that thing.
Yeah, very definitely very hard, and I would say it's something I've struggled. It's something I still struggle with till today. It's like even if you know that this is what you should be saying, I'm still But
Mm-hmm.
if I say this thing, what will people think about?
What
What will
people
people
think
think
about.
about me? And yes, I do agree that from like the background that we come from, there's a lot of I don't know, I mean, if you grow up saying things and then people keep putting you down, or disregarding your opinion, or saying, what you're saying um, is not important, then you
It's
grow
not
up also
important,
be very
exactly.
critical of yourself. Like you're also thinking every time you are saying something or thinking to say something, like, should I say it? What will people
Exactly.
think? Even when nobody's actually around you trying to like suppress, you
Yes.
are already suppressing your own your own thoughts. And yeah, it's definitely hard. It will probably take some very intentional effort and time to like reprogram yourself to be able to share and just be like, yeah,
It's true.
this is what I think, this is how I do things, I'm going to tell you. And also being comfortable with people not agreeing with you. That's also something that
It's
I
true.
really struggle with, like putting something on, like when somebody makes a comment or something and say that I don't like what you have to say. Well, it's fine, you don't have to like what I have
Yeah, you
what I
don't have
have
to
to
like
say,
it.
but
Yeah.
easier said than done. When you start seeing that, you start thinking, Abia, is what I said, is it wrong? Like maybe it's wrong.
Is it
Maybe I should go
mm-hmm.
look at it again. And sometimes
Is
it's
it
good
wrong? Yeah.
because it might help you to go back and like look at your own perspective again to see. But sometimes it's just somebody just does not like what you believe in, and it's fine for people
Exactly.
to not like that. But yeah, it's definitely something
Exactly.
that a lot of us struggle with. That's a big struggle for me. And for
It
now, I
is.
actually just put like a pause on making posts. I just post my work. I've not really
Mm-hmm.
been doing any personal branding,
Writing,
because
yeah.
I want to be able to share something and know that this is me talking. I'm not trying to sound like somebody else that I admire in this field, because I
Mm-hmm.
think that um, that way is the right way to go. Because no, you just be like a copycat of somebody else. You're like
Yeah.
version 2 or not even version 2, version like 500, because a lot of other people are also doing the same thing, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
really stand out. But what makes those people you admire stand out is the fact that they are being real. They share, yes, they share a lot of things, and there's also some curation here and there, but the core of what they are sharing, sometimes it's who they
Is
are.
is essence,
So
yeah.
it's, I think
That's
it's
true.
definitely
It's and the thing is, I don't think, and I think someone asked me this question. I think I wrote an email sometime, and someone asked me like, do I think that anyone can be truly authentic online and like 100% authentic? And I was like, no, like it's not possible because one, um, you have to code switch. You have there's a bit of like I wouldn't if I was invited to like maybe Obama is having a ball and he's inviting people to come. I like hoodies, but I'm not going to wear a hoodie there. I'll find the best suit and wear it. And so there is a bit like you will like that's the thing. Society is not going to allow you to be 100% authentic all the time. Let me say all the time. But then in certain things you can be. And for me, like that is through content. Like I write, I spend every morning, like when I wake up, one of the very first things I do is I write. Like I just first of all I'll journal. Like I just write my thoughts, like what's sort of like mind dump everything in my head onto like the paper. I use Day One. It's a really nice app. I just do that quick on my laptop and then I just start my day. But then I write. So I actually write. I pick concepts. I pick anything I want to talk about. If something came to mind, I just have this running list of things I write about, and I just write. Sometimes I don't even share it. Like I just write. But then what comes out of it is I start getting content ideas. I'll be like, oh, maybe I should record a video on this. Oh, maybe I should, talk about this, talk about that. And trust, there are so many things that never see the light of day. And because I sometimes I don't have the balls, I just don't have the balls to share because it's so wrong. Like it's so out of like um I don't know. It just feels out of place. Sometimes it can be out of place. It's like this is too direct. It's too condescending, and so you have to like package it up a bit so that it's more presentable, and that's fine. But I think it's when you're not doing that at all that's the problem. It's like when for you there's no medium where you could just be 100% yourself. And for me, those two places is Twitter and IG stories. Like those two places, I have nobody to prove that. I'm not growing an audience on Twitter. Like I would tweet my mind. If I see a quote I like, I'll tell if I see someone who is pissing me off, I'll insult the person. Like I will be 100% me there. On my stories, I'll post what I'm doing. If I'm working this podcast, I'll probably post the screenshots and be like, guys, there's a podcast coming up with Damilola like soon. Like stay like I'll be me over there because I can be. But obviously things in like big things like posts that will be shared, you have to engineer the writing to be more um there's certain things you have to do to make sure your content is good. But then everything aside, have a place where you practice being authentic, like 100% you, like your thoughts, your opinions, and being okay with being wrong, and being okay with being cooked. I think people are afraid of being cooked online too. I think that's another thing. It's like
definitely.
when a lot of people just gang up on you and tell you, yeah, you did something wrong. There was, I think, about a month ago, this podcast, Shits and Gigs. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Yeah,
Some two guys based
definitely.
in
I
London.
have.
Yeah, yeah. Some two guys based in London, and the internet just came for them. Like they tore them apart, and a lot of people were thinking like and I was I'm in several group chats, and so many of them were saying things like, oh, um this is the end, this is like how they go out, and this is how, I was like, no. Like they will be very fine within a week. I even just saw this morning that they posted a new episode. Like they are still up and running. Like they apologized, they came off and meant, yes, maybe they did ruffle some feathers and lose some portion of their audience. Like people probably unfollowed them, but that's okay. You keep it pushing. They're not perfect. They're not human beings. Like not that I'm here to defend them. I'm not here to defend them, but then I'm just
Yeah.
saying that like how things have gone on, their posts are still getting hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok. Like they are doing fine. And cooking is not the end of the world unless you really do some really messed up thing. Even this guy, this tech reviewer, MKDHP Marquez,
Yeah, I heard about that too. The
Yeah,
whole
he's been catching
wallpaper
so
app
much
thing.
heat. The whole wallpaper app. I think recently he filmed a video where he was speeding on a road that was like a residential area, so he wasn't supposed to be speeding, but then he was speeding so fast. It was so bad. He came up to apologize, but then people are still cooking him for it. He posted a video yesterday and people were still like grilling him for it. But the thing is, he will still keep making his content. He might have some legal issues because it was a crime, but then he'll be fine. Ultimately, his content will go on fine. He'll keep doing what he's doing. He'll still get the views. And so cooking, yes, is annoying. I've been cooked before. It's not the best, but then um, you get over it. Everyone gets over it, and things move on. So why not just be you?
Definitely. And
Yeah.
even with the whole curation thing, I mean, and I'm being authentic. Yes, you really can't be 100% authentic online. You should be as authentic as possible, but obviously
Hmm.
there's a room for you to be 100% yourself, and that's around, close
Exactly.
friends and family and all of that. You obviously don't want to go online and just show them, tell everybody everything. Definitely
Everything.
not.
Exactly.
It's just that the core of whatever you're going to say should be based on your actual values, your
Hmm.
beliefs, your knowledge, how you talk. You should still see some, that okay, what differentiates this person and this person. You can see like something clear in the way they talk or in what they say that makes this, I don't know,
Hmm.
designer or this creative different from another creative or entrepreneur who does the same thing that they do. There has to be something that makes them stand out from each other. And
Yeah.
but obviously to be 100% authentic, not really possible. You have to be grammatically correct when you are making a post,
Exactly.
things like that. You have to design your carousels well, but if you're
Exactly.
talking with your friends, you speak your local language, you know that your audience is different, and so you adjust to that audience. So yeah, I
Exactly.
yeah, that's something that creatives should learn from. And speaking of branding, of personal branding, we've touched on that now, I think, because I think this is also an issue that affects creatives not being as authentic as they could possibly be. But do you
Hmm.
feel like there's any other issues that in the branding on the branding side of things that affects the creative entrepreneurs in Africa and their businesses? Like, do you think there are any issues like that?
I think the number one thing would be the valuing of your work. Um, I think when I started, one thing I really struggled to wrap my head around, especially when I was living in Ghana, was I couldn't wrap my head around someone paying me, even if it's US dollars, like even if it's let's even like start like the very first time I was paid 1,000 US dollars for a project, I was so shocked. I did not understand why. I felt so icky. I felt I didn't deserve it. I felt like it was something that was probably charged for like if like a tenth if I was working with someone in like within my geographical space. But then I think for creatives, like we have to understand that creativity and value, like what you do, if like I don't know how to say this, like the value of the work you do is determinant on who it's for. So even if you are doing a simple video, these days a lot of people are being paid to make TikTok videos for brands. If you're paid to make a TikTok video for um let's say a convenience store just by down the street, it will probably be cheap. It will probably be like probably $50 or something, or probably even 50 cities. Let me say Ghana cities. So if you like 100 cities, you would just be like, oh, do this for me, 100 cities, I'll pay you, and you'll be fine. You'll be okay with it. You record it, get your 100 cities, and move. But then if it was for Adidas or Apple, and they're asking you to make a TikTok video for them, they would not you cannot go and mention 50 CDs or 100 CDs or 200. You can't, because they'll think the work you're doing is cheap. It's not going to be good. um it's poor, and already you're coming from Africa, so then already they'll feel like and so for creatives, like we have to get to the point where we understand that you have to be able to price the client and not price, like don't take like price your work. Like pricing your work is fine. Like have a minimum that you would absolutely not go below. But then for every client you speak to, anybody who's reaching out for work, like look at the company, look at who is reaching out and be like, where's this company based? What's the number of, I can go into details of like how to actually like ballpark it in your mind. But then where's the company based? What products do they sell? What services do they sell? What's the price points of their services? And then use that to like give them a good, respectable budget. And if they don't want to pay that, be okay with walking away. Because I think what happens to us is we cheapen the work we do. Meanwhile, the creative work that we can give to the world is so valuable and is going to make these companies millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But then we feel like because it comes to us naturally, it comes to us easy. And so we were just like, you just pay me this, I'll be fine. You're selling yourself short. And you can't grow, you can't reach your goal, you can't become financially, prosperous if you don't actually start to look at things differently, because the marketplace, especially the business marketplace, is different outside of Africa. And the thing is, you can get those jobs. The thing about content is when you share your content with the like online, it doesn't stay within your area. It does not even stay within your country. It goes like people all over see, and you can tell, like if you check your profile, you can check like your reach, where the countries is reaching. You would see that there are people outside of your vicinity seeing your content. You might think it's nothing, but if you deep it, it's you literally made a post in your house and someone in China is seeing this thing. If they see the value enough, they will reach out to you and they would want to pay you and for that work. And are you going to tell them, you're not going to ask them good questions? You're not going to price them. You're going to price yourself. That's like another mismatch. So I think it's one thing that a lot of people struggled with. I struggled with it a lot. But then when you start thinking of it that way, think of the clients. Like, where are they from? What do they need this for? Their products, how much is their product? And then use that to price them. You would get a lot more. You would actually get a lot more yeses than no's, because clients I've seen, if you're too low with, like, if you're below their budget by far, it's not a matter of like them saying, oh, this is the cheapest in the market. Sometimes they're not looking for the cheapest in the market. They want to buy from someone who they want to be associated with. They want to buy from a brand or a service provider that they feel like, yeah, this guy is good. It's a bit painful to pay him, it's expensive, but he's good, he's got the credibility, I'd want to work with him, so I'll pay him. And you can be that person. You really can. You really can. And if I was able to do it, I always said, if me, this shy guy, could even talk, like I could even talk, bro. Like I couldn't talk. I didn't like. I hated presenting. I hated doing things in class like that had to do with attention all on me. I can do content. I can go on lives. I can host podcasts. We have a podcast. Like, if I can do all these things to grow my brand, then you guys have no excuse, because I know some of you are really charismatic and will probably do 10 times, even 50 times better than I would ever do. And so, yeah, I think that's the next thing for me. It's like being able to price the clients.
So I see it. So it's first of all about changing your own mindset about what you are worth, because then that also
Hmm.
affects the kind of people that you can reach out to and people you can work with. Because I mean, I understand the whole thing that creatives have, when especially when you're just starting out. You always, I don't think there's anyone who starts out that is, unless you've been working, maybe you've been working at an agency or something, or and you've seen how people, or how that your agency charges, like for maybe the service you are now offering as a
Hmm.
freelancer. If you broke off, then you might be more confident with saying, okay, I want this specific amount of money. But for the most part, for people who are really just starting out, who have never been able to who have never had to have those discussions, it can be very hard, because you feel just
Yeah.
as you said, many of us start these things out as like hobbies, and it's like, oh, I can do this for free, why should I charge that amount of
Hmm.
money? But the value you're offering through the work you'll be doing for a client, it's not just about it. It's not a hobby. You're not helping them. You guys are not playing together. You're going to be helping them make money. And
Make
so
money, exactly.
it's fair that you get like a good share of that money too, as well. And you just need to understand the
Yeah,
client. So yeah, I
I
I,
like
I
that.
agree with that.
I
So
think I think before we I wanted to say, like, there's an education gap um in creative entrepreneurship, especially for people based in Africa. and you have to get on par with the people that you're competing with. I always tell people that when you say you are doing anything these days, your competition is not local anymore. Unless you're like a mall or a clothing store that doesn't sell online or ship outside, or a convenience store or a filling station, like a fuel gas station. Like, unless you are that, so far as you have a service and you're hyping it on the internet, your competition is global. Because now when people want to buy from me, they're not just benchmarking me against everybody else based here in Toronto. Like, they're looking at people based all over the world. Like, why would they give Mike, even if it's 5,000? Why would they give Mike 5,000 instead of the best designer or whatever? He's made so much money. He's made so much fame for himself in Australia. Like, why don't they just do that guy? They have a relationship with both. So there's an education gap, and I felt it like when I initially started like getting some attention on from the global like markets with content, and I can probably break down, like, if I was to start again, what I would do with zero skills and zero. I can probably like answer that question for you. But then I noticed I had an education gap. I didn't know much. I didn't know much about pricing, even my process, like how to make good brands. I didn't know. I had to learn it again. I had to know what brand strategy was. I had to take courses. I had to read books. So I had like a good 2 to 3 years, even though I was making content on the side. But there was this 2 to 3 years, and those of you who follow me know, like, there was this time that I was literally like drowning myself in books all the time. Books, courses, YouTube videos. I met so many of my mentors just by investing in their stuff. Like I'm sure you know the future. You know Michael Janda. You know all these people. Like, they make so much good stuff. But the thing is, the best people, the people who are killing it in their spaces, they've all consumed this stuff already. And so you have to become like a sponge. Like, you have to absorb as much as you can constantly. Like, you have to be going to sleep to this thing. You have to live and breathe these things so that it becomes second nature. So that when you are in the space, um and someone has a question, or you're about to speak to a client, you know how to negotiate, you know how to price yourself, you know how to price, you know when to say no, all the things in you, like, it just mixes in your brain. That's how education works. Like, you won't be able to recall what exactly was said here and there, you won't be able to quote. But then if you stay in that space for a long time, you consistently consume, your mindset just starts to change, and you start to see the actual value of creative work. Because, bro, creative, like, these companies, these C-suite companies, these big brands, one thing I've noticed, and I'll tell you for free, the creative work is what brings them money. Creativity. These days, they can't, like, if they don't have that, they have nothing. They only have balance sheets and profit and loss statements. What really brings people to them is the marketing guys, like the people who are able to do something online and then get attention, and then they go to their website and buy. So you have a serious superpower if you can make something. If you can, like, from the back, from your desk, from your phone, you can make something, art. You can write something that compels people. You can design something. You can, even if it's a website, you can make something that's functionable for people to, like, be attracted to it. Because that's where the attention is. If you're able to attract people to something, you are all of a sudden more attractive. I didn't want to use the same word, but you are more attractive to these kinds of companies. So yeah, that's kind of the summary for that. But then, yeah, I don't know if you have any other question on this.
Yeah, I think that was a good answer. That was a great answer. And now I want to, so when it comes to branding again, for creatives in general, so this is
Mm-hmm.
not just designers, people who might be musicians, poets, writers, or whatever field. What are the key things that you would say that these people should work on when it comes to branding? Maybe things that you've seen, creatives around you that they're probably not doing very well in that space, and you would advise. So
Mm.
as a brand strategist now, give some. I know I'm asking for free. This is like free consultation, but
Oh,
yeah,
that's
it
all I
will
give.
lead them to come for like a full one later. But yeah, so for
Oh yeah.
creatives, what kind of advice would you give them when it comes to branding themselves?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And by the way, like, there's no. I told you before the call, like, there's no. I don't gatekeep what I know, like, at all. Like, I actually want people to be asking me these things because information is free. You can have it. Like, I don't sell information. I sell that. Like, if you want me to help you do X, Y, Z, you need someone to hold your hand. Because sometimes you can get the information and you just don't. You can't act unless someone comes to be like, "Hey, get up and do this. Get up and do this." That's when you need someone like me. But then if it's just information, I have that in abundance. So for creatives, for people who have a skill, first classify yourself. I think the first thing is to classify yourself. Are you a pro at this thing or are you just starting? If you're just starting, and I don't know how to benchmark this, but let me say if you have less than, I think people say 10,000 hours. So basically, there's this theory that if you've not spent 10,000 hours doing something, you're not a pro. I don't think it's like entirely true. Like, there's some context that can be applied, but you know yourself. If you've been in whatever field you've been in and you've been consistently doing it, if it's music, you've been making music for the past year, or you've been making art for the past year, you've been making designs for the past year, you're a pro. Like, no matter what anyone will tell me, someone can pay you for whatever you've been doing. So you're a pro. Obviously, yes, you're not a master because you have to, like, obviously there's a lot more you can learn to become a master, but you're a professional. You can do professional work. If you are just starting, like, you have just learned this skill, you've just picked up your first camera, you want to become a photographer, you need to get your hands dirty, you need to get more work done, you need to build that portfolio. And it's easy to do that these days with your personal brand because you are like the sole owner of your own personal brand. You don't have to pay anybody. You don't have to get feedback from anybody. If you're a photographer and you are just starting, go out and take pictures, edit them and post under your name. Let that be you building your portfolio. Do it for a long time. Not even a long time. A year is enough. 3 months, 6 months. Just be consistent with it for a while till you get enough that you can, like, say like, okay, I've taken 50 photos. These are the 50 best photos I've ever taken. And now that's your work. That's your capability. Now you are on par with someone who is a pro. So those of you who are pros, it means you have something of value that someone can pay for. Um I literally wrote an email today talking about the fact that there's multiple ways to become successful. Just because we talk about content these days, doesn't mean that that's the only way. Is probably the best way or the fastest way. Let me say the fastest way, but it's not the best. It's not the only way. And I have to recognize that, yes, maybe you don't want to do social media and you feel like whatever you want to do is outside of this. Feel free, go off and find that. I don't know how to do that. What I do know is what I'm about to say. So this is where those who don't want to know social media, don't want to be on social media, you can, like, click out. But then those of you who feel like, there's some opportunity here, I may have started, I don't know what to do, then stay, because I think the next part is the key part. You need, like, and we've talked about it a bit about being you. People don't buy my work just because of the fact that I'm good. They buy because they like me. Like me, Mike. Like, even sometimes when, like, people reach out to me and, like, I hand over to the team and be like, oh, like, they'll handle it for you. Just talk to XYZ. Like, Mike, I want you to be on the project. And that all came from the kind of content I was sharing. And yes, it was valuable. Yes, I'm teaching people about brand strategy, but at the same time, don't forget to inject your personality into it. Take photos, like, take random photos of yourself. Share what you're doing, share what you're working on, share what you're learning, share the mistakes you've made and the mistakes you just made. Like, something like, there was a time I made a whole reel on a launch I tried. It was actually this year in May or so. I tried to launch a certain product and it flopped so bad. Lucky for me, I hadn't even made it. Like, I was testing interest and, building the wait list and whatnot, and it was crickets. Like, no one responded to me. And I made a whole post talking about, like, the fact that that wasn't my mistake. Like, I analyzed my mistakes and I was like, yeah, I did this wrong, I did this wrong, I did this wrong. But I want to do this next time. I'll do this next time, I'll do this next time. That post got me so many comments. Like, people reached out to me and were like, Mike, like, You've like that's so real. Like, thank you for sharing because you saved me. I was also going to do the same thing, you know? And then people start to build genuine love and trust for your branding. And that's where the magic happens because then people start referring you, people start sharing your content, people start, you know, broadcasting you to their worlds. And then that's when business starts to come. You know, that's genuinely the difference. So unless you are like a Lionel Messi or a like you are like the next best designer or the next best Beethoven or Drake or something, like if like your talent, if you feel like your talent is the next best thing, you can get success with just your work. Just post your work and you'll be fine. But if you're like me, you have the skill, you have bills to pay, you have rent coming up, you have rent to pay, you know you have things to pay, and you just want people to recognize the work you do, and be willing to pay you to do projects with them, then start talking about yourself. Start talking about your values, like what you like, your stories. Tell stories like your first mistake, like different things. Like these are things that will bring people to you. The whole point of content is not to sell. It's not to sell your services. It's just for people to see into your life and join the boat. You know, so that's like the number one thing I'll give for creative. It's like you have to build that, and it takes work. It takes work to write, it takes work to edit, it takes work to record. Like this recording is going to take me, I'm just here to yap, but I know Damilola is literally going to sit down after this episode. He's going to cut it up, he's going to edit it up, make the long form for YouTube, he's going to post it on YouTube, snip the audio, put it on audio platforms. He's going to then go through the episode and find snippets, post it on TikTok. Like he's going to work on it. It's going to take work. And who knows, maybe this episode will probably even flop. You know, there's no guarantee. But then
It
just
cannot flop. It cannot
but
flop.
the thing is, he's showing up, he's doing it, he's locked into the thing, and he's going to be building this. And it may not be this content, it might not be this one post that blows off, but then it is going to compound. You know, he would share something, someone would relate, they will share with somebody, someone will see it and be like, who runs this podcast? And then they come and reach out to him, you're like, oh, I want to sponsor your podcast the next episode. And then now he's got a deal. That's how it works. That's the value of content. There's so many people doing crazy things on content these days. There's a guy, I literally found him recently. I mean, I knew him before, but I saw him again recently. He makes cucumber salads on TikTok. Like he literally just cuts like cucumber. He just cuts like a cucumber, a long one. And he mixes it with random things, and it becomes like a salad. And he puts in some nice bowl and he eats and he just like rates it. His own thing. He has done this for months, like probably even like years. He has over like 1 million followers. I think he's probably even 20 million followers. I'm not too sure.
And
And it's just his, yeah,
sorry to chip in. Sometimes those kinds of things, you find yourself like, I'm following this channel and I'm wondering why. Like, what am I finding interesting? But I just
exactly.
like what they do, and or
Yeah,
the, mostly the person themselves, and maybe the way he's
exactly.
reacting to like his own meals, and that is what is keeping me on that
That's what's
channel.
keeping
You
you
know,
there.
but when
It's
you write
true.
it on
And
paper, it sounds like, why am I interested
why
in
am I
this?
here? Yeah. Like people tell me all the time, like Mike, I have a 9 to 5. I don't even have a business. I have no business following you, but I just like the fact that like I'm following you, you know, and that is the power of what's like sharing your personality with the world can do. You know, people would gravitate towards you, and people will leave. People will leave. You will get unfollows. People, I think I get like 100 unfollows every day. People leave, and that's fine. They can go, but the thing is, people will come, people stay, and that grows. People leave because obviously, yeah, their values change. They don't see you as valuable. They just don't connect. Fine. I'm not supposed to connect with everyone. I'm looking for my people. And so understand that content is not like it's not to sell. It's really not. Like if you think it's to sell, then you should probably have left to the people that left earlier who don't to do social media. Because the guy who even does these salads and is rating them, he's not selling anything. Probably, yeah, like a brand will probably sponsor him a couple times, but he's not selling anything directly with the content. Maybe if you go and check his link, you'll see that maybe he has some recipe book or something he's selling. But then with the content, he's not come to say, "Hi guys, this is my recipe book. It's for $10. Come and buy, come and buy." He's not saying that. He's creating something that people would like him, trust him, and follow him. And that's where the growth happens. And so change, I think you start to change that mindset of yours. And then the last thing is, like I said, like keep learning. Like it never stops. I have never stopped learning. I'm
Keep
still
learning.
reading
Like
books.
it
I'm
never
still
stops. Binging
I
the
have
future.
never stopped learning. I'm still reading books. I'm still binging the future content. Like sometimes, yeah, there are months that work gets busy and I learn a lot less. But then when time frees up, I always try to pick myself up, and because when you're not learning something, you're regressing, you're forgetting. And so even if it's picking something new or picking something you've already listened to, so a book you've already read, just going back again, you learn something new. And probably the last thing is don't burn out. The last thing you want as a creative person is to burn out. And the only way you can burn out is if you are consistently wearing a mask, because it's tiring to be consistently trying to be someone you're not. It's tiring. It's tiring. I hate it. Even being me on content, like online, I still need my time to detox. Like on weekends, I'm rarely online, because I need my alone time. I want to binge 15 episodes or something. I like that. But then when I'm online, it's still me, and people get that. Like, it's Mike, he's offline on the weekend. We'll be back on Monday. But if I was pretty, imagine if I was on top of that wearing a mask. Now I have to come and wear my suits and sit on IG
I mean,
story and
it's
then
like
record.
it's like lying because
Exactly.
it's pretense is some form of it's a form of a lie. So it's like lying, and every time you meet somebody who knows who you need to lie again to, you have to remember what you said the last time to another person and make sure that
Exactly.
it is consistent.
It's like it's
And that would
consistent.
never
Exactly.
it wouldn't
It's
work long
tiring.
term.
It's tiring, and it's easier for people that work in, let me say, real estate and um I don't know, sales, like direct sales. It's easier for those people to wear those masks because what they are doing doesn't even take that much from them. Creative work takes a lot from you. It does. When you make a song, it's parts of your life that you have put on the paper, even if it's like it's not a real story. Your intellect, your creativity, these things are all parts of you that you're putting out there. When you work on branding, is like elements sitting down to analyze video editors. People, the video editors, I think now is like, now I've seen how heavy and intense it can be, because now I've been working with like some big projects and big people who do, and I'm like, bro, something as simple as like just cutting from different angles, and I'm learning about it now, and it's like, wow, it takes a lot out of you from the heart. So if on top of that you are wearing a mask and you are trying to sell your product and nobody's buying, these three things, within 2 3 months you would have stopped doing content, because you would see like there's no benefit. But if you were being you, making your content, making your art, and showing up as you with no, almost no intention to sell directly, and trusting the process that people would gravitate, you would find your people, you'll be shocked at how long you'll be able to do this thing. And content always benefits the people who do it longest. Always. If you, even if your content is bad, like it's not designed well, it's just the fact that you stay doing it and post 300 times, you would find a viral post in there. It's just the way it is. It always rewards the people who stay longest. If you make music, you show up as yourself. There's this guy on TikTok. I actually followed him, probably last year or last 2 years. He's literally, I think he was doing on the side. He just like takes his guitar and just like sings and writes songs on the whim. And he just writes songs on the whim. And I think he like was doing it for a long time. And nothing was really happening. And one time he made one song, and I think it was from his past or something. He said it was like about a girl or something that he knew in his long time ago, like she died or something like that. The song went so viral. It got like hundreds of millions of views on TikTok. People demanded that he goes and records that thing and puts it on Spotify for them. And just like that, his career went. I saw recently that he had a concert in London and it was like sold out. Imagine if he stopped after like post six because he was not being real. He got burnt out. That's the last thing you need. And so just stop. Just stop wearing those masks. Like, it's hard work, it's scary, but then the benefits are, you do it and see. And I feel like I'll probably end. I don't know if this is the ending, but then This question, I'll end it by saying, if you do this for 6 months consistently, you follow everything I said in this pod up to this point, do it consistent for 6 months, and nothing changes in your business. Nobody, like nothing changes. DM me and be like, Mike, I did this. We'll have a conversation. If truly, truly you did it, I will literally pay you. I will literally pay you because that's how bad I believe this thing works. Because it worked for me. It's working for everybody. I tell people do this and their life changes. Even the mental stress of when the mask leaves. And it's like, now I can just be me. I can make content, and if it catches, if it goes viral, it goes viral. If it doesn't, I'll post again tomorrow. There will be another post, there'll be another podcast, there'll be another song. So don't get tied into the now. Don't put pressure on yourself. It's a lifelong thing. And you'll be shocked when your moment comes. You will be shocked.
Wow. I mean, personally, I've heard so many things that I'm going to apply to my own branding because yeah, I feel like, just as I mentioned earlier on, a lot of things I've been doing, I can probably do it better. I'll be more authentic. I think that's the key word. I wouldn't
Yeah.
say I've been as authentic as I'm supposed to be. I've been a little more curated with certain, especially on that platform you call LinkedIn. Or
LinkedIn,
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, bro. I
Yeah,
haven't posted
it's
on
very
LinkedIn in
it's
months.
it's very hard to not be very conscious of what you say there because of
Yeah.
what everyone else is saying there. But I'm definitely going to, personally at least, and I'm sure the people who are listening to this as well would really look into what they've been doing in terms of personal branding. What are they sharing? How authentic is it? And how can they make it better? How can they be more how do I know? How can they be more of themselves with what they say and what they put out there? And
Exactly.
yeah. So I mean, I'm still going to hold you for a couple more minutes. So I've not
Oh
we've
yeah,
not we've
sure.
not yet
I
gotten
have
to the
time.
end. We've not yet gotten
I
to
have
the
time.
end. So yeah, but thank you so much for all those answers about. So that was like just more focused on the branding side of things. Now I would want to
Mm-hmm.
go into your journey as a creative entrepreneur because yeah, you run an agency, you co-founded an agency, and then you're also a brand strategist yourself. So you're a creative
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur in two ways. You have your own brand you're managing, and then your business brand as well. So what has your journey looked like from when you started up till today? What were the highs and the lows? What were your expectations
Mm.
when you started versus what it's looking like now, and what are the lessons that you've learned along the way?
Okay, that's a big question. It's been, I mean, you know how it goes. It's ups and downs. There are months where I feel like I'm literally on top of the world. I've made so much money. I'll like, feel like I'm like, wow, this thing is working. And there are months that literally break me to my core and almost feels like you can't go on. It's like you're wasting your time. It's like, why are you even still here? You like, and for me it's like, well, you have a degree, bro, like go get a job. And sometimes it gets to you. Like I have mates, probably from high school, probably from uni, who are like killing it in like the top firms all over the world, whether that's Bank of America, Goldman Sachs. Like they are thriving, having a normal 9 to 5. And it's like, well, it always and it always, and surprisingly, and rather not surprisingly, actually, it comes when you're in your down points. Like when things are bad, that is when like that is when one second. Yeah, when things are bad, that's when like you start to think of, maybe I should. Um and yeah, like I think that's just how the journey is. I embrace it all. My co-founder knows, like when he's down, like when he's feeling down, I feel down. When I'm up, he's up. When we are all up, we are all up. The whole team eats. I'll probably share one story that happened actually. 2020. It's actually a story I used to tell a lot often. Now I don't tell it as much because now 2020 is like what, 4 almost 5 years ago. But when COVID hit, um it's funny because 2019 was probably like one of our like most successful years at the time. Like we hadn't made that much money in a long time. And I was actually telling a couple friends of mine, I was telling them that the way 2019 was so good, when 2020 went so bad, I should have just known because it was too good to be true. Like we made, I don't know if like God was trying to teach me something, bro. We made so much money, yeah. Like we had like the best projects. I think that was the first year that we got like really like high paying clients based in London, like UK London. And it was fun. Like those projects were fun. It got like it allowed us to be really creative. I had almost everybody I could hire. Like it was a big project. Like it was a whole thing from branding to websites to content to I think even as far as even a music video or something like that. And like I got to work with so many creatives based in Africa. I even had to outsource sometimes some of them to outside. We're making and the profit margins were high. You know, it was a good year in 2019, and then 2020 COVID happens, and then it's like okay, let's see. And I mean, you know, it was like 2019, especially around November, December. That's when the cases started coming out. But then everybody thought it would like fade away. And then February, it got serious. March, it got too serious, and then everybody had to go into lockdown, like all over the world. And then flights, like everything stopped. Nobody was traveling anyway. People got locked in in different countries, whether they were on vacation, whether they like basically everything came to a standstill. And I'm sure everybody remembers COVID. And the interesting thing is that when companies are looking to cut costs, the first place they always look. And I could probably do a whole episode on why that's like why that shouldn't be the case. But anyway, first place they always look to cut costs is in marketing. And so they're like, maybe we don't need to be spending this much on this. We don't need to spend much on this. Bro, we lost from March till August. Clients just pulled out contracts. And it was slowly like it was like, Mike, I don't think we can do this anymore. We don't know what's going to happen. So let's just end things. Like every maybe 2 weeks, I was getting this kinds of um, emails. And initially I was fine because like we had some runway, and I thought like within like a couple of weeks COVID would be like it will subside. I don't know why. I didn't think it would last that long. I didn't nobody thought it would be this like huge thing that people would die and like so many millions of people would lose their lives, lose relatives, and it became really bad. And basically by the end of May, June, it was so bad. Like it got so bad. We had to let like we I had to let people go. I had to let like some of the staff, like people that we had on payroll. I had to be the one to tell them, like, guys, I know I pulled you from XYZ company to come and work with me. It's probably not even been a year, but things are bad now and I have to let you go. It broke me. I think like I don't want to be in that position ever again. Like just to be in the point where you can't pay people that are, riding for you. Like they show up for you every day. It wasn't even every day, it was remote, but it was still them showing up odd times of the night and delivering on projects. They put almost no foot wrong, and then things hit the fan like that. It was so bad. It did crazy damage to my own self-confidence, and it took a lot to actually get me out of that rut. And on top of that, COVID was happening, so everybody was out. Like I had to be at one place, everybody had to be at one place. And so I sat in the thoughts, I sat in the mess. Like there was nowhere to go, I couldn't go anywhere. And at the time, funny enough, at the time I hadn't started doing content. Like I had never made a post in my life. We had the company running and everything, but then most of the clients were still coming through referrals and through my co-founder Nana. Um, so then I think when you're pushed to the wall like that, then it's like, well, at the point you have to like get up and pick up yourself and do something different. And that's when I realized like that we didn't have any stream of income, like not stream of income, stream of leads or stream of business inquiries direct to the company. Like everything we knew, every money we earned, every client's projects we worked on was through people, referrals, like referrals, friends here, there. But then we didn't have anything particularly online that people could like come. I don't even think we had a website at the time. Like it was so face value, but we're making so much money and we thought we were fine. But then I think that's like one of my biggest lessons was to never rely just on word of mouth, never just rely on referrals. Like make sure you have built this marketing funnel for yourself, whether that's through content, whether that's through a blog, whether that's through anything, a YouTube channel. Like just have a way that you are getting attention from people who are not in your space. to see the work you do and come into your space. So then that's when I went into the rabbit hole of content, like finding out what content even is, like how do I make that. And then that's when I came across personal branding, I came across carousels, and I was like, okay, let me try this thing, let me try learning it. And it took a lot. Like and at the time I didn't have anything. Like at that point, I didn't have anything. I wasn't even renting at the time. I had to go home. So I went back home. So I was living with my people, so I didn't have to pay anything. So I mean, there's always food, Ghanaian homes. So there's always food. So I knew for those costs, I was down. Like I was okay. So now I was at rock bottom. I had to reinvent everything. I had to learn a new way of thinking just to survive, just to keep these things moving. So I started making content. That's when I started writing. I started learning about carousels. I learned from so many great people at the time. I don't even know if they're still making content. There was this guy called Christos Nikas. He was based in Greece. I took his course. I bought his, like, I used my last money to learn so much. There was this Harry Needham from the UK. There was obviously the Chris Dodems. There was Mike Chanda. I had to learn from Mike Chanda too. I bought his course. I paid for his consulting. Like I went on my knees trying to find the next thing for me and the company. And fast forward to today, it works. Like it worked. Like within 2020 itself, like before the year ended, I started to get some success on like through the content. Like we were growing rapidly. Um Especially my page. Like so I was doing on my personal page at the time because I heard about personal branding. I was like, okay, let me just learn this thing. And it was awkward. I don't like looking at the videos from back then. I did it. It was I don't like looking at those videos. But then it was good. It was by the end of 2020, like we started getting some leads again. I think we had a couple more projects. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it kept the lights on, but then it ran through to 2021. Then we started getting some even more good projects. I was able to rehire everybody that I let go, which was fun. And yeah, things got like things do have business. It always has these months where it's like ugh, and then months where it's like yeah, and months ugh. But like I think just riding the wave is making it. That's a fun part. At the end of it, all, I'm a businessman too, so I like it fuels me. Like whenever things are down, it's like okay, what do we need to do? Like what's the problem? And then you reinvent, you come up with new ideas, cut costs, increase, like find something, and then you keep it up again and here. So that it's like this game I play in my mind. And to be honest, I'll not recommend. I tell you all the time, like not many people are built for this this entrepreneurship thing. It is a lot. And so I wouldn't recommend for most people actually. But then yeah, I don't know if you have any follow-up questions to that.
Yeah, so I mean, thanks for that, and it's more of a. I just wanted to pick on one of the points two of the points that you've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes we underestimate the importance or the value of having like people that you can like family or people you can go back to or when
Yeah,
you are in those situations where things go down because as you mentioned you're able to go back home and stay and eat your food that your family is making you don't have to
exactly.
think of because it's like there's this thing okay when you imagine that happened but you had nobody that you could like depend on you have to still be thinking of how will I pay rent how
How
will
will I
I do
eat?
this
Yeah,
and there's no job there's not you are thinking of those two things at the same time that could just lead to you making some desperate moves which would probably affect the
that
business in the
affects you
long
later.
run
Yeah.
so those kinds of things. So there is that importance, and this is something I have also personally
Mhm.
gone through, like those low periods. And thankfully, there was family I could just go back to and stay, and family that doesn't judge and say, ah, maybe we
Yeah,
told you should not
exactly.
go on this path, and you went there. Look at what has happened. People that will just accept you and let you. Recharge and find a new way
Recharge.
or develop a new strategy to go back and try again. So that's just one thing I wanted to say. And then the other one is, with when things seem low, like the drive to like what you should do in those situations is yes, so you should maybe rest and like take a step back. But then the
Hmm.
focus is like on I like how you talked about how it's you think of what can I do to
Yeah,
solve
to
that
get
problem,
out of
to
here.
to to move forward, to get out of here, not just this thing is not working. I think it's time to quit. And I mean, it
Exactly.
could get to that point. There's points
It
like
could.
that, but um, a lot of people would give up once there's like this sign of just a little inconvenience somewhere. But you sat down, you thought, what could I learn? Do I need to take some courses? You bought courses, you invested money. That's another thing. Like you actually invested money in the courses, knowing that okay, there will be some returns from this. And even if there's no returns immediately, you've learned something new that you can add to
Yeah,
yourself. Like that makes you more valuable. And I think that's
that's true.
something that investing money in learning things, like if it's not on YouTube, a lot of people don't want to put in money and like pay something for a course because, well, to be fair, some of those things are expensive,
They're
especially if you are.
expensive.
I remember just seeing your post recently on how some of these resources they are like they're outpriced for like Africans. You
Yeah,
want to
for
buy a
Africans,
course,
yeah.
it's $400, $500. The exchange rate is you can't.
It's crazy.
It's just too much. That's your rent for a year in some
Literally.
places, like that kind
Literally.
of thing. So I also understand that. But if you do have the ability to do those things, then please, like, put in
Yeah.
invest in that because it would
It
have
could
some
bring, yeah.
returns, even if it's not like immediate to you. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just
And
wanted
that's
to
the thing. I
touch on
think,
that.
yeah, it's true because the thing about paying money for courses is there's a difference. And people don't like this view that yeah, you should um just pirate it. Like people be like, oh, if you can pirate it, just pirate it. And trust, like I probably not on record, but I'm not totally against pirating. So I get why it's good because again, like this issue is a big thing. Like people can't access like education, even sometimes entertainment. Like they can't afford certain platforms. Like they can't afford Netflix, they can't afford Apple TV and all these different platforms, even just as entertainment, when that's where all the entertainment is these days. And so they decide to go that route, which is like is wrong, but I get it. But then for like courses, there's this thing that if you don't pay for it, you don't take it serious. And it's actually a psychological thing. It's been proven. Even I have proved it. There are times that I open up my calendar. I do this periodically, probably every quarter. Like for a week or two, I just open up my calendar and I just take calls. Like I literally just there's like I like to call it a pulse check. So I just put out a link on my stories and I'm like, if any of you want to talk for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, just let's come. Like talk, like literally it's like a free consultation. And every time people book that call, they show up to the call and they ask their questions, I answer them, blah blah blah. And the thing is, I'll always have this. There's it's built into the platform that it reminds me to check in on them in 3 months after the call. So in 3 months, I'll go back and go and just peek. Like most of the time, I don't even reach out to them. I'll just go and check like what they said. So it will have the notes from what I told them to do. I'll just go
99.9%
and
of the
check and
time,
see if they have
all the free
implemented it.
calls, they never do anything.
But then if someone pays me for a coaching session, just the fact that they've parted ways with money, even the attitude they show up to the call, like first of all, they will not be late to that call. And most of the free calls, there are no shows. Like people book in and not come. Like, but then the people who pay part monies and show up they show up, they are attentive, they take notes, and they actually go and implement. And most of them do it as a way to be like, yes, I want to be able to do this and come back and say I did it and it didn't work. So that then now we can talk. But then paying for stuff in your brain, it just makes you more like treat it more seriously. Unless you're really determined, like unless you are really determined to learn this thing and you genuinely don't have the funds and then you get the free one. Yes, you can like you'll be fine. But then aside that, parting ways with money, it does that so it makes you more serious. So you would actually like learn from whatever it is. And two, you build a relationship with the creator of whoever is making that stuff. So I think in 2022 or 2023, I got featured on The Future, like Chris Doe's podcast. And I got featured on his page too. Like I wrote some guest posts for him. And a lot of people came, like I got a lot of my audience from there. A lot of people came, like discovered me. And a lot of people asked me, they were like, how did you build this relationship with him? Even Michael Janda, like my mentor, like they were like, how do you build this relationship? I was like, I just bought this course and I asked them questions. And the thing is, when you buy something from someone, a creator, another creator, they know you, like they know you very well, and so they will know you. They would see the effort. They would be more like likely to answer your questions. Until date, I can send a message to these big people in the industry, and they would respond just because I took that initial step to invest in them. And they don't forget these things. And even if like it gets buried in their brains, like now all they know is that Mike is cool. Mike from Canada is cool. Like we're cool. And that's how last year I was able to have dinner with him. Last year he came to Toronto, and then we had like he had this dinner. He called like a couple friends he knew in Toronto, and I was there. And it was a nice time. We had a good time. Having these connections are valuable because you can't put a price on it because they share out jobs like that. They are big, so they share out jobs like that. And so if you really want to get on someone's radar, it's a really good strategy. Just invest in them, whatever course it is. And sometimes it's not even that expensive. Like it's really not. You invest in them and then you build that relationship and you never know where it will end. So yeah, for paying, that was another reason. I think that was another big reason why things worked out for me then, because I didn't decide to just pirate and go and learn. And I did do a lot of YouTube learning, which is good, but it's scattered. You know how it is, like it's pieces of the puzzle from different places. But then if you want to step by step do this XY, do this, learn this, like take this exercise, do go and get a course, learn from someone who's done it before. Yeah, and you'll be fine.
I think the fact that you, for courses that you buy or just any educational resource, the fact that you've invested money, you're kind of okay. I have to get a return on this. I've put this
Mm-hmm.
money inside, so I have to get, and that's what probably
Yeah.
one of the things that pushes you to make sure that you complete that course. Because yeah, same thing. I can relate. Like even with courses that are maybe not very or on the lower side in terms of pricing, like Udemy courses, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I have a lot of Udemy courses that are just they're just there, so yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
I
yeah,
I bought many, but I didn't use them. But the ones that I paid more for, those ones I finished
yeah.
them that week, like the
Like
week I
that,
I paid
exactly.
for it.
Exactly. It's crazy.
So yeah, but yeah, so just one last question before, and then maybe some quick fun questions, and then
All
we'll
right,
round
cool.
up. Um now for aspiring creative entrepreneurs, people who want to start their own agencies, people who just want to run creative businesses, what pieces
Mm-hmm.
of advice, apart from what you've already shared, because you've already shared a lot of gems, what pieces of
Mm-hmm.
advice would you share for people who are starting out and maybe creatives who are moving from like a 9 to 5 job to like becoming an entrepreneurs? What pieces of advice would you share with them?
Okay. If you're moving from a 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship, these days, don't just do it outright. I like people would say like, quit your 9 to 5 and go and start a business. I wouldn't do that. If I was like in a 9 to 5, no matter how small the salary was, I would not do that till I'm getting probably 10 times, or not even 10 times, like a lot more money from the business before I would like send in my resignation letter. But then before you leave, make sure you have that runway. Make sure you have at least the next 3, 4, 5, 6 months of your expenses lined up. You saved up that so you can, pay your rent, pay your bills, pay your phone bill, pay your like, utilities, like have that on lock so that you can survive. Imagine if you quit your job and for the next 6 months you don't get clients. Like think like that. So then be able to survive for that long before you make the jump. And you'll be a lot safer. You'll be in a relaxed state, and you can actually work on your content, work on your business, and grow. Otherwise, when you leave like that, you are looking for the next best thing, and you would cheapen your work, you cheapen your value, as you said, and you take any job you get, and that's when you work with the worst clients. You would, and it becomes this vicious cycle because now you've got a bad client, and bad clients only know bad clients. Good clients know good clients. So if you start with bad clients, you'll be there for a long time. Like they would refer you bad, even worse clients. They all want cheap work done. But then you see that quickly, like it's probably not even going to pay enough as your job at the time. So you may hate your boss and all, but stomach it. It's a long thing. As I said, like it's a long term thing you're trying to build here. So be a little patient with yourself to get started. Um and yeah, when you get started, I think we've already spoken about like the things you should do. But then I think another thing would be just to learn business. Like learn I think that's one thing that came to me because I did school. But for those of you who didn't do business school, learn the language of business so that you can't be cheated or you can't be looked down on. People already see creative people as like they don't know much about what they are doing. They just do the thing. So they use certain business jargons to like throw you off or to make you feel small. So learn business, learn what a balance sheet is, learn what a profit and loss statement is. Like learn these things and apply it to your own business, because now you're a business. You're not a one-man band. Even if you're a one-man band, you're not an employee. You're a business. And so you have to start treating yourself like that. Like if you have an agent, if it's an agency, write your invoices, and design, like build this business like how you would want it, and yeah, aside that, everything else that we've spoken about is really in depth. I feel like what I've shared today is really deep. I'm even wondering
Very,
if this will
very
all
deep.
be in one. I don't even know if all this will be in one episode, but
It's
then
been one, but we'll break
uh,
it down. We'll break it down, and
we'll
there'll be a
break
lot
it.
of short
Yeah,
form content that will come from this too,
that will
because
come
there's
from.
so
Yeah,
there's so much, so many gems, so many gems.
yeah. We covered a lot. So I hope you can go back and don't be shy to go back. Like I listen to people think I'm obsessed, and you have to have some level of obsession to really start to move things along. Like sometimes podcasts, I listen to them 3 times. Like I hear a podcast that's really good, I'll be like, okay. Like the first time I listened to it, I probably didn't take notes. I'll be like, okay, I take a mental notes. The next time I'll probably give it like a day or two. I'll come back this time with a notebook, not even a notebook, like my Apple Notes. I'll just open it up, and as I'm listening, I'm making notes. As I'm listening, I'm making notes. As I'm listening, I'm making notes. And then when I finish with those notes and the episode is done, I'm done. Then I'll come back again. Like, so don't be afraid to keep going back to the same well, because sometimes your brain needs to hear it a couple times before it actually sticks. Most people just learn one thing and then just quickly go off. But then the thing is, you need to be in it and you need to work on it. So if they say do this, do this. If they say do this, do that. Become a pro copier, as I say. So as I've said, I've given the strategy before you go off and start tweaking things, and all this talk I've not even spoken about. And that's the thing, I rarely talk about when people ask me about personal branding strategies and things. I rarely say, oh, go and make TikTok videos, make long TikTok videos. Like that doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, you would figure that out as you go. But the core thing is the authenticity. Like make sure that like you have that unlock. You're comfortable in your own skin. You're comfortable with your voice, the way you look. Be comfortable because that's all you've got. You're the only person you've got. And so do the work to get comfortable being you and show up. The rest will come. Like you will find your favorite platform. You will find your favorite medium, whether you like designing, writing, podcasting, you will find it. You will try things and you would find it. So don't be too fussed about that. But don't be afraid to go back. Even if what I just said is nice, just go back and re-listen. Don't be afraid to go back and pull back from the wells. And then yeah, and just rehash the first thing, the very first thing I said is like you have to believe in you. There's this quote, I don't know who it's for, but they always say, whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. It's a very deep statement. Like whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. If you never believe you can, even if it's as simple as losing weight, if you don't feel like you can lose weight, you never will. If you don't feel like if you feel like you can, you will. And so if you feel like you can build this thing for yourself, you can and you will. So just it starts off here. So when you have that unlock, nobody can stop you.
Mike, thank you so much for all the
No
insight. I can't
problem.
even. I'm thinking of how many reels I can get out, I can make out of this,
There's nothing like
but
too much
how much short
content.
form content. It can
There's
be.
nothing
I will
like
use it very well because there's so much people can learn from this conversation. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me
no
and for
problem.
having this conversation with me. It was really insightful to me, and I'm sure our audience will also find it just as insightful. So, where can they connect with you and find you online, as well as your business, Brainstorm Africa?
Yeah, I think the easiest place to find me is on Instagram, at the Mike Lawson. I'm active anyway. If you just type Mike Lawson, on Twitter, on Threads and Instagram, you find me, and I'm really responsive in the DMs. If you listen to this episode and you liked it, just you can tag me in your stories. Start with the authenticity. Yeah, like you enjoy this, thank the person. Another thing I like doing is when I listen to a piece of content, I like it, I genuinely thank the person. Like I would probably send a comment. If I just even drop in a comment or tagging them my stories, I will do that. And so if you like this episode, tag Damilola, like share it on your story and be like, yeah, I like this. And I'll reply. Like I'm not scary. As you can see, I'm not scary. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to send them my way. um we're currently not taking clients for the rest of the year at Brainstorm. But then if you think you might need like you want to work with me on a project coming in 2025, send me a DM too. Like I think the DMs is the easiest way to reach me in the business. Um, yeah, aside that, and I share a lot of good things too. So if you have, I share a lot of free things too because I'm a believer in the pirates. So if you like anything I learn, I always share. Anything I get, I would compile it. I'm always sending emails as well, like teaching stuff, like breaking down stuff. And so if that's your jam, you feel like you're in the absorption state and you want to learn a lot, like I'm sharing a lot of my experiences too. So yeah, just catch me on IG. Um but yeah.
Thank you so much, and guys, whoever is going to follow, he has some of the best carousels I've seen, and that's actually how I
Oh,
came across his channel, like breaking down complex information into simple bite-sized like carousels. A lot of people make carousels, but yours are exceptional. So just a
thank you, man.
compliment to
Thank you.
chip in there. So but
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you so much for joining the conversation. Hopefully, we'll have you again sometime in the future for another episode because I still have a
Anytime.
lot of questions to ask. But
Anytime.
yeah,
Book it.
no, I'll be in your DMs. I'll be in your DMs.
For
But
sure. For sure.
yeah, for everyone listening, thank you for listening to today's episode. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're listening there, or on Spotify if you're listening there as well. And please share this episode with anyone who you think will find it insightful. And yeah, see you on the next episode of the Lucrative Africa podcast. Bye.